In 1940, Albert Alexander scratched his face on a rose bush and died. Antibiotics did not exist. Today, 1.27 million people die each year because those same drugs are failing, and we are quietly heading back to his world. Penicillin's arrival in the 1940s transformed medicine almost overnight. Factories across Britain and the United States scaled up production at a pace once reserved for wartime munitions, turning a laboratory discovery into a weapon that could save millions. In the decades that followed, the world entered what scientists called the golden age of antibiotics. New classes of drugs arrived in rapid succession: streptomycin in 1944, tetracyclines in 1950, and macrolides in 1952. By the late 1970s, doctors could choose from dozens of antibiotic families, each targeting a different weakness in the microbial world. Infections that once killed without mercy, such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, and childhood meningitis, became treatable, even routine. For a time, it seemed as if humanity had finally outsmarted disease. But the pace of discovery slowed. By 1987, the pipeline of new antibiotics had nearly run dry. The last truly new class to reach patients, the fluoroquinolones, entered the market that year. Since then, almost every antibiotic approved has been a minor variation on an old theme. Pharmaceutical companies began to pull back, citing the high cost and low returns of developing drugs that doctors are urged to use sparingly. The economics of antibiotics, including short courses, strict stewardship, and rapid resistance, offered little incentive to invest. As the search for new cures stalled, bacteria quietly adapted, learning to sidestep the medicines meant to stop them. The optimism that once defined modern medicine was replaced by a growing sense of vulnerability. The world that penicillin had banished was no longer a distant memory. It was starting to creep back, one untreatable infection at a time. Around the world, antibiotic resistance is no longer a distant threat. It is a daily reality. In 2019, an estimated 1.27 million people died from infections that modern drugs could not cure. That is more than malaria or HIV. These are not rare, exotic cases confined to remote corners of the globe. They happen in cities, in suburbs, in hospitals where antibiotics once guaranteed safety. The drivers are everywhere, woven into the fabric of daily life. Most antibiotics are not given to people at all. Nearly 70% go to livestock, cattle, poultry, pigs, and are often used not to treat illness, but to make animals grow faster or to prevent disease in crowded conditions. This overuse breeds resistant bacteria that leap from farm to table, crossing borders with every shipment of meat. In clinics and pharmacies, antibiotics are handed out for coughs and colds, for viral infections they cannot treat. Patients sometimes stop their prescriptions early, feeling better after a few days, leaving behind the toughest bacteria to multiply. Rapid international travel means resistant strains can circle the globe in hours. A traveler picks up a drug-resistant infection abroad and brings it home, where it quietly spreads. Each act, an unnecessary prescription, a half-finished course, a dose mixed into animal feed, becomes another step backward, closer to a world where the simplest medical events are again fraught with danger. The slow-motion collapse is not just a warning, it is already underway. The consequences will land, not in far-off headlines, but in the most ordinary moments: a paper cut, a routine surgery, a normal birth. A slip of paper slices the skin, a moment so minor it barely registers. But in a world where antibiotics no longer work, that break in the surface can set off a chain reaction. Bacteria slip under the skin, multiplying fast. Within hours, redness spreads, swelling follows, and pain deepens. What was once a nuisance becomes a medical emergency. Without antibiotics, the infection moves from the skin into the bloodstream. Fever spikes, blood pressure drops, and organs begin to fail. Intensive care offers only support. The bacteria ignore every drug thrown at them. What used to be handled with a simple prescription now means a race against time, with no guarantee of survival. The difference between a full recovery and a funeral could be a paper cut. On day one, no one is immune. Inside the hospital, the rules of surgery are changing overnight. For decades, a single dose of antibiotics before the first incision has shielded patients from the invisible threat of infection. Now that shield is gone. The surgical team weighs every case, forced to ask whether the risk is worth it. Without reliable prophylaxis, post-operative infections surge. Rates that once hovered near 2% in clean procedures now climb past 15%. Intensive care units fill with patients whose wounds refuse to heal, whose bodies cannot fight back. Operating rooms stand empty as elective surgeries are canceled, and even emergency procedures come with a warning. Infection is no longer a manageable complication, but a likely outcome. Doctors and nurses triage not just patients, but the very procedures that once defined modern medicine. The safety net has vanished, and every cut is a gamble. A new mother holds her newborn, both faces flushed with exhaustion and hope. In the world we once knew, antibiotics shielded this moment from tragedy. But without them, infection waits at every turn. The birth canal, a site of new life, can become an entry point for bacteria that no drug can stop. Before antibiotics, up to 1 in 10 mothers died from sepsis after childbirth. For newborns, the risk was even starker. Nearly 1 in 5 infected infants did not survive. Today, as resistant bacteria spread, these numbers are no longer distant history. In some hospitals, nearly 40% of newborn infections resist every standard treatment. The fragility of birth returns. On day one, the promise of a safe beginning is no longer guaranteed. The danger is not abstract. It is written on the faces of those who should have the safest start of all. Today, 1.27 million lives are lost each year as antibiotics fail. Ordinary wounds threaten as they did in Albert Alexander's world. This isn't science fiction. We're heading back. The slow-motion apocalypse has already begun.